Today's sharing, as the sister has already announced, we continue the series of living in harmony, a very important topic in this today's sharing with the aspect of respect to society. It is just my reflections. Well, societies, there are many societies within the multitude of nations all over the world. And of course, when we move within nations, we have the issue of society. Now, within a nation, there are many societies because some nations are very large, some are small and medium sized, and spread across the geographical regions, they have many societies. So societies are made up of all kinds of people. And with respect to what the Buddha had to say within a nation of societies that make up a nation, we come across the Dasa Raja Dhamma. In this case, the Dasa Vidya Raja Dhamma, the tenfold virtue of a ruler. Of course, in those days, there were kingdoms. They call it kingdoms because they were ruled by kings, by individuals. But today, of course, kings have often been replaced by what they call the government. So very often, the Raja here can also today be likened to governments, heads of organizations, companies, and if you go smaller and smaller, you have officers, you have section managers and so on, or department heads and so on. Now, a lot of these sources of this Dasa Raja Dhamma comes from a Jataka story in which, Jataka number 385. We won't go into those details, but take the message. Now, of course, as I mentioned, Raja, meaning the king, is today more aptly replaced by the term government. And the first quality with respect to the Dasa, meaning 10, what I call qualities of the government, should be that the king or the government should be generous, to practice charity, giving. Okay, of course, not simply just giving anyhow it wants, because its resources are also limited. Where do we get resources? Via taxes from us in the end. It is our money redistributed among different people. So these are the issues. Now, so how does the government decide? So it is something in which they have to go in and figure out, set up criteria and so on. So the government needs to show its generosity. It has to set up criteria and find out. It should not be so committed to what they call collecting taxes until and not giving anything out. The second issue is that of moral character. Now, governments is not one person. It's not like a king. It's one person. Everything hinges on the character, integrity of the one person. But governments are made up of civil servants, the people that make the so-called the missionary run. You have the different ministries, you have the different what they call director generals, as in the Malaysian context. Then they go down the ladder, all the high-ranking officials, going down to finally the orderly within a certain what they call ministry or department, even down to the counter person who serves the citizens that come through. You want to renew driving license, up to that person. That person is paid by the government finally, and all that. So there's a need for a high moral standing among all the vertical portion and the breadth portion of the government. Okay, everybody has to be moral. And morality, usually, as many leaders say, we look to the leader. If the leader doesn't behave properly, then all the what they call the minions, the other government servants, or members in an organization will not bother to behave. And therefore, the standards have to be set right up at the top. He has to show, not just show by personal behavior, but also by implementing. He has to voice something out. It's very important. So this moral character is governed by the 5 precepts as a basic minimum. Okay. Now, the third aspect is that of sacrificing everything for the people. Of course, this is talking about the king. Some kings revel in personal projects, keep on collecting taxes, don't want to give up to people, want to build beautiful palaces, build beautiful this and beautiful, all because he feels that it is his country. The I becomes very strong. that becomes a problem. But when the king or the government views that the people are very important, then sacrifice is needed. Sacrifice in the sense that they must be prepared to give up personal comfort. Okay, things when you go into public and the leader goes into public to represent the government, you must not show that you are what they call. You must reflect the standards of living of the people. Not wear super expensive watches, wear super expensive whatever shirts and whatever lah. Whether they bought it themselves, that one is also question mark. Whether somebody gave in terms of marketing purposes, we don't want to know that. We want you to be one with the people. Do people wear all these expensive shirts everywhere? No. Do people wear all these super expensive $1,000 shirts everywhere? No. You must reflect the man in the street. Although, of course, as head of state, during official functions, you have to dress appropriately for such, maybe a coat and tie, or in Malaysian context, batik, good quality batik, in order to reflect the Malaysian culture. But otherwise, in normal functions, you have to reflect the majority of the people. Therefore, integrity is very, very important. Now, then, of course, you have honesty and integrity, as I mentioned. They must be free from fear or favor to discharge the duties. Very often in government, especially in elected government, means politics come into play. How do people come into government in the first place? They must launch political campaigns. Political campaigns are a big machinery, requires a lot of campaigners, people to work for you, people to analyze data, what does the electorate feel, what are the issues I have to work on, I have to print posters, I have to do this and do that. All this take money, take manpower, woman power and all that. So a lot of people, you go around to the rich people or rich corporations requesting for contributions to your campaign. And if they support you, some people view that as support, but on the cynical side, it's called buying your vote, buying your favor. So when you go to the government, you favor them. And that sometimes get reflected, when you look across nations in the world, even in countries that declare themselves the most democratic country in the world, you still have issues of there is favor in discharging their duties. They favor building projects in their constituency as opposed to other constituencies which are much poorer and so on. So those are some of the issues. So integrity, that means demonstrable integrity. People must see that you are honest and all that has to be shown. And the fifth area is that of there must be some kind of kindness, gentleness. That means congenial temperament. You must not be quick to anger. You must be willing to listen to the people, kind to the people. After all, it is not your government. You are just in the position to hold that office. The office is the main thing. You are representing the people in that office to execute a job. Even a king. In the ancient days, King Pasenadi of Kosala, one time, when they wanted to, when the Ananda Pindika, the rich man who donated and built the Jetavana monastery, felt very sad that the Buddha had to go on tour in India. It means go out of Savatthi, go out of Jetavana. So the Buddha was not at the monastery, but he wanted to talk to the Buddha and he couldn't. So he was wondering, how do I pay respect to the Buddha? And that issues about images and all those things come out lah. And after talking to Venerable Ananda and so on, the conclusion they came up with was, and of course discussing with the Buddha, the best was to plant a sapling of the Bodhi tree from the Bugaya, put it in at the gate of Jetavana monastery, which they agreed to. So when the sapling came, they want to plant, they're wondering, hey, who must do the honors? So they out of respect, they gave this sapling over to King Pasenadi of Kosala. After all, Jetavana was in the Kosala kingdom, to give respect to him. But the king said, very out of humility, he said, it is not me. I'm not really the king. I'm only holding the office of the king, the head of state of Kosala. So in that sense, Pasenadi was full of humility. I'm only like a civil servant, the person in charge of the country. But it is the office that is important. So it should not be me who plant the thing. Then after a lot of further discussion, in the end, the conclusion was that the sapling, the Bowie sapling, was to be planted by the donor himself, Ananda Fong, and he planted at the gate of Jetavana Monastery. So I'm trying to illustrate the point that king personality of Kosala also feels that even though he's the king, he can order people to chop, his officers to chop off somebody's head by sentencing them. But he still says out of humility that he is at that point in time the custodian of the office of the king, or as the king of Kosala. It means he is a civil servant who works for the people, for the welfare of the people. So that is important. So there must be gentleness and humility in this sense. And number 6, austerity in habits. He must lead a simple life, should not indulge in a life of luxury. Again, this is visible. And today with social media everywhere, how a leader conducts him or herself becomes very obvious. Those days, when you come to a politician or minister, and then the whoever heard so and so say something, they go and back and report, and then the minister come back, I didn't say that. Those days you can say that because it's only based on writing and all that. Now you got mobile phones with cameras. You are video recorded and what to say. So if you dare to say that, the people will just to refute your statement by playing back on YouTube. Everybody can see. Oh, yeah, it came from his mouth. What is he talking about? So he reflects his no integrity by lying to the people. So do you want to elect liars to represent you? Because if they can lie on your behalf, they can lie to you. So which means they can take money from the coffers of the government, which is actually your money, and all that, and run away. So those are the issues. So there must be some degree of integrity and also show austerity of habits. That means don't be overspending on fancy projects and so on. And on his personal life also. Okay. Now, number 7, freedom from hatred, ill will, enmity. Now, government should bear no grudge against anybody. In this case, not just anybody, but against any particular community. There must be unity in the country. Okay, it is not his community. You say, oh, I favor my community by religion, by race, or whatever. Nations are made up of many races, made up of many ideas, many religions. Some so-called, even no religion is in a way classified as a religion. Okay, in terms of classification. So there must be no ill will, no hatred, no bias. Okay, must be neutral because you represent the people. Okay, not just those of your religion and so on, and make silly statements, make you very, very obviously very idiotic looking lah. Okay, in certain quarters. Now moving on, number 8, there needs to be non-violence. Non-violence in the sense that there should be promotion of peace. There should be avoidance and prevention of war. Not like some countries now, I don't like that country. I think the country belongs, that piece of land, they don't regard that as a country. That piece of land belongs to part of my country. So I go and take it lah. Okay. Although there's a lot of condemnation about the western side, even the eastern side, they have big nations that go in and just grab. So who want to fight back? Nobody bother to fight back, so there's no war lah. But today, other people bother to fight back, that becomes a war. People supply weapons and all this kind of thing. There's a lot of suffering. All because somebody initiated violence against, not satisfied with their own country, not satisfied with upgrading their own country and moving into other people's territory. And number 9, there needs to be patience, forbearance, tolerance, and understanding. The government must be able to bear hardships, difficulties, and insults. Now, insults is a very important aspect. Need to bear them. Why? Nations are made up of the citizens. All citizens have their own opinion. Some opinions are held very strongly. Some opinions are held so lah, never mind lah, don't do so, never mind. But some are very strong. Strong means they will form opposing parties or groups. They demonstrate against you and all that. And if they go beyond that, they may eventually put bombs and bomb up your place. But it's not one group that's against you. There could be multiple groups. Group A could be exposing idea A. Group B could be idea B, which goes against idea A. So those groups may fight among each other also. Not only fighting with the government. So the government's job is to listen to the views of these people and to try to find which is the majority of views. Very often, a lot of these views expressed by various groups, NGOs, or as political parties are very often small groups. As they say, the empty can makes the most noise. There are only one can, but the rest of the cans are all very quiet. So it doesn't mean that the loudest voice is the majority. So you have to be very careful, and you have to have patience and understanding that you need to know, is this noise or request from this particular group, is it the majority or only one empty can making a lot of noise? Or is it the majority? So you need to understand that portion. So there's a certain exercise of wisdom required for this. Number 10, non-opposition, non-obstruction. Now, the government should not oppose the will of the people, should not obstruct any measures that are conducive to the welfare of the people. And this particular one is very interesting because there's a nice example happening overseas in supposedly a very democratic country where the former head of state doesn't agree with the election results. He wants to override and nullify all the votes of the people, and he wants to keep himself in power. So there's a lot of fight ongoing. So there must be respect, because finally you as a government leader, head of government, you are holding the office for the people. Who elected you? You are a government of the people. Okay? Finally, it is the people. Otherwise, why should I have a government? I don't need a government. I can do my own. So the whole country breaks up into smaller nations, smaller societies, smaller communities. They declare themselves breakaway nations. It can happen because they are not satisfied with the main government. So those are the potential issues that can happen. So therefore, if you want to keep the country together, there is a need to listen to the will of the people. In the end, this article actually summarized by Venerable Dr. Walpola Rahula quotes in the ending portion: hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is the eternal law. This is from Dhammapada verse number 5. And then in Dhammapada verse number 223, overcome the angry with non-anger, overcome the wicked by goodness, overcome the miser by generosity, overcome the liar by truth. So these are some of the advices given by the Buddha, quoted and reflected in these 10 duties of a government or a king or leader of a nation. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a nation is made up of societies, and societies are made up of many communities. But ultimately, communities are made up of individuals, and here is a mosaic of individuals, which doesn't even reflect a community because there's no space for all of them. So many faces there. And as a society or community, there's a need to come together. Individuals can only do so much. Now, if you were to stay alone in the jungle, that means not in the community, alone, one-man show, no electricity, no water, you got to figure out how to have shade over your head when there's a storm, when there's rain, when the hot sun, and all those kind of things. So you have to need to build, as a minimum, a shade. You may not have walls, you need to build a shade. How to build shade? Do we have the skills? The skill become an issue. A specialized skill of how to build a shade. Then later, there's strong winds blowing. Then I need to have walls to prevent the wind and the blowing all the rain into make me wet, even though I have a shade over my head. So you need to build walls. You may need doors because dangerous animals might wander into your so-called shade. One with the roof, one with the wall. Then you have another issue. Where do I get water supply? Maybe I built my abode near a river so no problem just go down. Then after that you have to worry how to scoop water. Mind you, you cannot go to the supermarket and buy a bucket. Okay, you don't even have knife, you don't even have an axe, you don't have a hammer, don't have nails, don't have wood. You just drop you in the middle of jungle, survive. How? So in the end, living alone has its extreme challenges. Okay, you need skills. The word skills, as over the centuries, people have developed so-called specialization. They have uplifted their skills. In this picture, you can see people who are carpenters, people who are familiar with building. In this case, not a very large building, probably a church. Okay, so they have a coming together of people of different specializations who can help you to build a structure. In this case, not a simple kuti or a simple hut, no. This is quite a big one, very big hall. So it requires specialization. And therefore, what I'm trying to get at is, we depend on each other. Where do we get our food? From the produce of farmers. Yeah, but farming what? We want rice, so they must have paddy farmer. We want white rice. When you harvest the paddy, you think the rice come out is white, man? No, somebody must do the milling. Okay, so you want to have chairs, wooden chair. You need carpenters. Those who, but carpenter need wood. Where the wood come from? From the forest. Somebody must cut the tree. Not any tree, not jumbo tree to make chairs, You need certain kind of wood for certain kind of chairs. So a certain way of cutting, certain way of transporting. So those are specialized services, specialized skills by different groups of people within a society. So society depends on all the various components, the people, the individuals within them who have developed skills and technology and know-how. They've learned the hard way or this way, bad way. They invent a new way of doing it, become better, more productive, less dangerous for them. So they help you. So in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the Buddha gave a list of 7 recommendations in which we can unite communities. Now this Mahaparinibbana Sutta from the Digha Nikaya Sutta number 16 is quite a long sutta, and this section is found at the very beginning. So those who want to read it is somewhat easy because it's right at the beginning. Now it also happened that King Ajatasattu, the king of Magadha, after he had already killed his father, King Bibisara, sent his war minister, one of his ministers, the minister Vasakara, go to the Buddha, pay respect to him in my name. He doesn't want to go, he sent his minister to go in his name. Let's see if you can pay respect on somebody else's behalf. But anyway, that's what he did. He paid respect. Ask the Buddha. We know that contemplatives, people like the Buddha, will not lie. So you ask a question, he will tell you the truth one. Okay, so he will not ula his way out of a certain question. Okay, so he tried to catch the Buddha, to give the best answer possible. What does he want the Buddha to answer? Ask the Buddha, how can my country, Magadha, invade and conquer the Vajjian country? I want to conquer, take over the country. That was his plan. So he sent Vasakara, and Vasakara came before the Buddha, paid respect in the name of King Ajatasattu, and asked, how do I do this? Now, the Buddha very skillfully didn't want to answer Vasakara directly by facing him. He turned instead to Venerable Ananda, who was just beside. Say, Ananda, long time ago, do the Vajjiyans do this? Do the Vajjiyans meet frequently and have many meetings? Then Venerable Ananda said yes, because when the Buddha was in the Vajjiyan country, the Buddha taught the Vajjiyans, the people of the Vajjiyan, the people of the Vajji country about this, and Venerable Ananda was there. So he talked to Ananda. So you remember or not? Last time I taught the Vajjiyans this. So here, in the first point is, as long as the Vajjis, the people of the Vajji country, meet frequently and have many meetings, they can expect growth, not decline. This is the way, the first step to unite a community. In the way, Vajji is a country. So you can twist it and say, not just unite a community, but unite the Vajjian country, They took the Buddha's advice to heart. But meet frequently, how many meetings? What is this meeting for? Meeting is for finding out what the people want, because the whole country cannot meet together. Malaysia has how so many million of people. How to meet together? There's no way. So there is a need to elect people who represent groups of people lah. So if you say elect by state or elect by constituency, whatever, somehow you have to find some way of grouping groups together, elect 1 or 2 persons to represent you, send it to another meeting, and they talk about this lah. So those must be set up. So, but meet frequently is to discuss about issues that the common folk has come up with, how the country can help. Okay, how the leaders of this community or society can help to alleviate the suffering of the people. So frequently is also talks about topics, but everyday people got a lot of things they have on the plate. Last, I will say a lot of things. This job problem, study problem, water problem, drainage problem, housing problem. All these kind of things come up. In those days also they have this problem. So frequent meetings is required because you need the so-called central planning, so-called the government spokes, or they call it, in a way you can call it parliament. Parliament has a lot of things to go through. So they must have enough time to talk to. Not said, we only talk for 2 weeks, after that we go for 1 week holiday. Parliament decide that themselves. That's a big kofan. Hey, you haven't settled the people's problem and you want to go for holiday. Apa ini? So people must also think twice, hey, what are these people doing? So the Buddha says, you need to meet frequently, have many meetings to discuss. It's not written here, but it's obvious, to discuss the issues of the people, how to solve them, how to help them. Okay? Now, there are many cases where we have meetings. There are many minutes. After come out minutes, nobody take action, Next meeting come, okay, has this action item been made, done? Oh yeah, sorry, last meeting I didn't put the PIC. No person in charge. Who to do? I don't know. I look at you, you look at me. So nobody do. So talk only but never do. So that becomes not so good So that's where number 2 comes. Meet in harmony. Okay, you must meet some meetings. You heard some countries, they throw chairs across in parliament. That one we know from public report. It is called history already. Meet in harmony and live in harmony. Not harmony means hey, for sure only, Real, there is love, there is concern for the other representative in parliament. So meet in harmony, live in harmony. Important thing is carry on their business in harmony. Carry on the business means whatever action item made, they go out and implement directly. If possible, together, those related ministries or whatever, they come together and do. People can see them do. And then when they come back, I did this. I coordinated all my ministry, workers to do this, to clear the drain, to make sure no more dengue or whatever All those kind of things. So there is a need to come together. Not talk. No action item. Who to do? Don't know. Apa ni? Number 3, don't make new decrees or abolish existing decrees, but proceed having undertaken the traditional Vajrayan principles as they have been decreed. Now, this one takes a little bit of explanation. Now, what do you mean by traditional Vajrayan principles? Now, any nation, in this case it is the Vajrayan nation, has been in existence for some time. You are not the first so-called representative of the people to sit in that meeting to discuss how to improve the lives of the people. There have been previous batches. So over the tens of years, centuries and so on, there have been many in the past. So a lot of these people, as long as these representatives are wise, conscientious, honest, have integrity, have concern for the people, when they think their thinking would be for the benefit of the people, not how to line their pockets, how or give money to their kaki, their own political party. But their concern is for the people. So the Vajrayan parliament of old has set up laws concerning and for the benefit of the people. So there's a lot of consideration. Thinking is considered, a lot of aspects are considered. So they put it into what they call decrees or laws or ways of doing things or constitution of a country or whatever. They got different ways of recording all these method of doing things, how it should be, how it should not. So these decrees. So that is why don't make new decrees. Now, of course, if new problems come up which the ancient Vajrayans never encountered, you may have to actually come up with new decrees. But most of the time, new things seldom occur. An important thing is don't simply abolish existing decrees. Why? They have been well thought out by the ancient wise fellows. Okay, they think they simply make laws, man. Of course, if the citizen, the men in the street, people like us, they vote, they find that our parliamentarians simply make laws to support this community and discriminate against another, then we can protest and make noise. But the Buddha is referring to the traditional Vajrayan principles. Why? They had already established a set of very practical, very wise, beneficial, non-discriminatory set of decrees, of principles. And therefore, they were very conscientious. And therefore, they don't simply go and play around with their laws or the constitution just because they feel like it. And of course, as long as they don't do that, they are still following a certain set of rules. Of course, the growth is to be expected, not their decline. Now, here, I'm sure many Vajrayan leaders, the old parliamentarians or leaders, government heads, have retired. And still, they go back. They need to honor, respect, esteem, venerate the Vajrayan elders and think them worth listening to. They have retired. They don't active in all this parliamentary work, but they still go back and consult. What do you think? Because the retired fellows got a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom. They have seen a lot. So they consult them. This is how the ancients do it. And of course, apparently in India and during the Buddha's time, there was a lot of these problems. The Buddha had to put this one in. Don't rape or kidnap women or girls from their families and force them to live with them. So fortunately today, in the modern 20th, 21st century, we have laws against this. Okay, but still there are still episodes of human trafficking and all these kind of things involved. But in those days, it was common until the Buddha must advise them not to do this. Okay, there was clearly a problem then. And number 6, honor, respect, esteem, and venerate the Vajrayan shrines, whether inner or outer, that means in the city or outer outskirts, not neglecting the proper spirit offerings that were given and made in the past. Now, notice, the Buddha was some people today will call it a religious teacher. He didn't say, oh, those other religions don't demolish, don't care. But the Buddha is saying that you must maintain whatever is within the Vajrayan culture, whatever shrines where you pay respect to, maintain them. They must be honor, respect. Now, I'm sure Vajrayan countries, they have many people, they have many other kinds of religions. Not just Brahmanism. They got variations here, variations there. Local communities got their own peculiarities, whatever. But the Buddha did not say to abolish all of them and respect only the Buddha. No, but still honor, respect. So here is clearly mentioned, there needs to be inter-religious, intercultural respect. Okay, even spirit offerings also, then you must do honors to them. Don't simply treat them like dirt or I come to your place, you shouldn't build it here, demolish. No, respect. Okay, so the Buddha is advising all the Vajrayan public to actually go and honor, respect, esteem, venerate. Okay, not neglecting proper spirit offerings. So that here is recorded intercultural, interreligious, respect among each other. Okay, whatever shrines, you might not understand what's going on, but there must be respect there. Okay, don't simply be so high-handed. Number 7, organize proper protection, shelter, security for the perfected ones. Those who renounce the world and practice to enlighten themselves, so that more perfected ones might come to the realm, and those already here may live in comfort. So the perfected ones are those, of course, from the Buddhist point of view, we are talking about enlightened disciples. But in Vajrayan society, not everybody is a Buddhist. There are many other religions. In different religions, got their way of saying, "Oh, this venerable here is, as far as they're concerned, enlightened, perfected." So here, the Buddha is saying, you must still protect them. You must provide shelter, as long as the community regard those few individuals as enlightened, although not enlightened from the Buddhist point of view, but they regard them as enlightened. We must treat them properly. We must protect them, feed them, and so on. There must be respect for that. So this is again inter-religious support and respect requirement, because it is very close to the people's heart. You simply overhanded or one religion override the other religions, then you fight, you cause many communities within a nation to revolt because they feel that that is important, and you just wipe out my shrines, wipe out my people, my venerables, don't approve temples to be built or to be maintained, cannot, then you cause disunity in the nation. So this is, and again, another aspect of mutual inter-religious support is required. So these are the 7 conditions of welfare or coming together advised by the Buddha to what they call the Vajjayans. And concluding this section, then the Buddha said to Vasakara. Earlier, the Buddha was talking to Venerable Ananda without looking at Vasakara. So Vasakara was just next door, standing nearby, listening. So now the Buddha said directly to Vasakara, Brahmin, this one time I was staying near Vasali. Vasali was the capital of the Vajjayan Republic. Interestingly, the Vajjayan Republic, it is a republic. It does not have a king. It is common in those days, ancient days, to have kings. But this particular country has no king. It's a republic. It means you have parliamentarian representative, and the capital is Vasali. So here I was staying near Vasali at this particular woodland shrine. There, I taught the Vajis these 7 principles that prevent decline. As long as these 7 principles that prevent decline last among the Vajis, and as long as the Vajis are seen following them, they can expect growth, not decline. And the last portion, after the Buddha has spoken, Vasakara said, Master Gotama, if the Vajis follow even one of these principles, they can expect growth, not decline. So Vasakara also agree. Out of the 7, even follow one also, they will grow. Indirectly, the Buddha, when talking to Venerable Ananda, listing these 7, is telling Vasakara, I taught the Vajjayans, and the Vajjayans have been practicing what I taught them. So the Vajjayans are united. They are strong. You cannot, as another country, simply want to masuk and take over. You are in for trouble. Okay. So in the end, Vasakara came back to King Ajatasattu, told him about this, and King Ajatasattu decided, oh yeah, wrong time to invade the Vajjayans and try to conquer them. As I mentioned earlier, societies are made up, nations are made up of societies, societies are made up of communities. In the end, individuals make up communities. And whether the community is harmonious or broken, a lot of infighting among each other, in the end, it depends on the individual. So we are units in a community. They make up society, and societies make up nations. So the unit is very important. As individuals, we have many wants. I want this, I want that, hopes for the future, and so on. So in this particular page, the precious, the greatest, the best, the highest, whatever superlative word. So in Dhammapada verse 204, the Buddha mentioned, health is the most precious gain. Contentment, the greatest wealth. A trustworthy person is the best kinsman, the best relative. Nibbana, the highest bliss. This is mentioned by the Buddha in Dhammapada verse. In this particular sutta, bliss in our lives. So these few slides I'm showing you are telling you that the Buddha did not just talk about enlightenment. The Buddha brought the Dhamma down to what people, lay people, ordinary people, we go and work, we have families and all that. What we want. We want the best, we want this, as mentioned in the Dhammapada verse. In this particular sutta, Anyanya Sutta, bliss in our lives, the Buddha talked about the 4 kinds of bliss that can be attained in proper season, on the proper occasions, by a householder, that means people like us, partaking of sensuality, means we have not renounced the world, we are still in the world. So which 4? The bliss of having, means I own something. The bliss of making use of the wealth that we earn. The bliss of deathlessness, didn't utang. The bliss of blamelessness. So this is the bliss. So happiness or bliss is possible in our lives. Okay. Now, in this particular Itta Sutta, I'm sure you have many of you have know about this. What is welcome? What we want? What we desire? The Buddha says 5 things householder are welcome: agreeable, pleasant, hard to obtain in the world. Which 5? All of us want long life. All of us want beauty. All of us want happiness. We also want status. And finally, when we pass on, rebirth in heaven. Okay, for those who agree with rebirth, some people don't agree with rebirth. They want to go to heaven. Nevertheless, heaven is welcome. So all those things we want. But the problem is, how do we want them as ordinary people? How do we get it? So that is an issue. Now, moving to the bottom paragraph. Now I tell you, these 5 things are not to be obtained by reason of prayers or wishes. Hence the title, not by prayers or wishes. Okay? If they were to be obtained by reason of prayers or wishes, who here would lack them? For centuries, thousands of years, various humans all over planet Earth has been praying, have been hoping, have been wishing. Who would not obtain them? And the Buddha continues, it's not fitting for the disciple of the noble ones who desires long life, beauty, happiness, status, and rebirth in heaven, to pray for it or to delight in doing so. Instead, the disciple of the noble ones who desires all these should follow the path of practice leading to all these things we want. In so doing, he will obtain long life, beauty, happiness, status, rebirth in heaven. Okay, so this is the main thrust. And even in this Dhammapada verse number 20 aspect, there's sometimes in certain centers there is overriding emphasis on chanting, recitation of sacred texts. They consider the Buddhist texts or the suttas as sacred. So they chant, 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 chant. But the Buddha had this to say, comparing mere chanting and recitation versus practicing the teachings. Little though he recites the sacred text, but puts the teachings into practice, forsaking lust and greed, hatred and delusion, with true wisdom and emancipated mind, clinging to nothing of this or any other world, he indeed partakes of the blessings of a holy life. So clearly, between mere chanting and practicing of teachings, practicing is number 1. You must put your priorities. Now, let me have a little bit of elaboration. Why is chanting still important? Now, chanting was practiced among the disciples of the Buddha during the Buddha's time. So when the Buddha was alive, after the Buddha gave a lecture, some groups of monks will sit one side and they will chant. What are they chanting? What was the purpose of chanting? Those of you who have gone to primary school, especially in Chinese schools, or even in the Kebangsaan schools, you remember that the teacher wanted you to remember your multiplication tables? 1 times 2 equals 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. You have to recite it over and over again. Recite it over and over. Recite, remember the word? That is called chanting. So you were chanting in school. What was chanting for? Memorization. So all these advices, in this case, not arithmetic, but teachings of the Buddha, because in India, they didn't have books. They didn't have tape recorders. How to remember? Chant. Repeat again and again, so that you can put the teachings or the lecture given by the Buddha into your head. So the book, the instructions by the Buddha is inside your head. You can remember it easily. Chanting helps with that. It is a means to an end, Okay, chanting. Finally, once the book is in your head, you must do something about it. Take the advice as you remember, because you've been chanting a lot. You remember it, practice the teachings. Finally, it is the practice. Those who claim that they have poor memories and didn't chant a lot, at least you have the book. So you must form a habit of regularly listening to Dhamma talks, audio talks, or watching videos, or reading the books to remind yourself what to practice. Okay, but what better than putting the teaching into your head? Then the book, the recording, the video, or whatever, the lesson is inside your head. You want to think about it, it comes up straight away. You don't have to go and look for where's the book. No need. So chanting is for that purpose. Okay, but practice is more important. So the other thing is, in the Ita Sutta, the Buddha said, should follow the path of practice. Now, the path of practice involves many ideas what to practice. And when we come across various people, people will suggest this, another person will suggest that, and that is only the individual talking to people close to them. In a community, in a community center, many people will come out with different ideas. Okay, and communities make it larger society. Wow, even more ideas come out. Some very diverse. Some of you might say crazy ideas. Some are fantastic ideas. Whatever. In the land, how do we handle ideas that have been mentioned to us, whether by our closest friend, our parents, our siblings, or other people in the community which we seldom see? Once in a while, go to the market, I see the person. How do we handle ideas? And in the Kalama Sutta, the Buddha advises, Kalamas, do not go by reports, legends, traditions, scripture also, logical conjecture, inference, by analogies, by agreement through pondering views, by probability, or by the thought. This contemplative is our teacher. Number 10 is very important. By the thought, this contemplative means this monk. In other words, the Buddha is saying, the Buddha is my teacher. Do not go by that, Okay, so even the Buddha's words must be evaluated as to reasonable or not, and all this kind. So there are certain criteria, certain sieve. So why sieve? In case they are silly ideas, you must throw them out. And in good ideas, at least up to when you pass through the sieve, then you maybe can accept and implement within your own life as to what to do, how to improve yourself. Okay, so how to judge? The Buddha continues, when you know for yourselves. Now, when the Buddha taught this to the Kalamas, the Kalamas were not Buddhists. This is the first time the Kalamas met up with the Buddha. So the Buddha didn't say, follow my 5 precepts, follow my four noble truths. No. He says, when you know for yourselves. That means the Buddha is appealing to people's common sense. You know, you are not born yesterday. You have lived a life. You have come across relationships. Some people are good people, some people are bad people, some people are so in the middle, all kinds of people. You have learned a lot of things. You have some degree of wisdom, some understanding of the nature of people. So you can judge for yourself. When you know for yourselves that these qualities are unskillful, these qualities are blameworthy, these qualities are criticized by the wise, these qualities, when adopted and carried out, lead to harm and suffering. Harm and suffering not just to other people, I do, then you kena suffering, but very often harm to yourself, to parties. So the Buddha says, then you should abandon them, should not accept them. So any person sit up here and talk nonsense, fulfilling this criteria, throw the idea out of the way. So when you know for yourselves, again, appealing to the Kalamas' common sense, that these qualities are skillful, these qualities are blameless, these qualities are praised by the wise, these qualities, when adopted and carried out, lead to welfare and to happiness, not just to the person proposing it, but to everybody around him also. Then you should enter and remain in them. I call this a gross sieve. A sieve which has many big holes that can obviously catch all those stupid ideas, harmful ideas, and throw them, reject them. Whether it's uttered by a religious teacher or a politician, more so a politician. Very important. You must be able to sieve them out. In the end, what is this Buddhism about? The Buddha didn't use the word Buddhism because he didn't speak English. He referred to his teaching as Dhamma Vinaya. Okay, the Buddha's Dhamma Vinaya. And in this Vinaya Pitaka quote, go monks on tour for the benefit of the common folk, happiness of the common folk, for the welfare, the benefit, happiness of gods and humans. So clearly, the Dhamma Vinaya is for our benefit, for our happiness, for our welfare. And why did the Buddha and the enlightened monks, shown in the drawing below, go out and teach? It is out of compassion for the world. Why? Because all the monks there are enlightened, arahats. So the picture denotes the first 60 arahats sent out as missioners by the Buddha for the benefit, the happiness and welfare for people around there. Now, the Tipitaka is very huge. The Buddha went to many communities, many countries within northern India. And different places, different people will ask questions. And this and the next slide are two examples of requests by ordinary people like you and me. If the Buddha was here today, we will probably ask the same question. So here in the Digajano Sutta or the Vyapaja Sutta, the layperson, we, Lord, are laymen who enjoy worldly pleasure. We lead a life encumbered by wife and children. We use sandalwood of Kasi. We deck ourselves with garlands, perfume, and unguents. We use gold and silver. That's called money. To those like us, O Lord, let the Exalted One preach the Dhamma. Teach those things that lead to will and happiness in this life. It means here and now. And to will and happiness in the future. So when I pass away, how I can benefit from that. So this is a request from a lay person to the Buddha to teach him something to use here and now and for the future. But these are lay people. These are not monks. Okay. To find out what are the 4 things the Buddha advised later for the will and happiness in this life, and another 4 things for the happiness, will and happiness in the future life, read the Digajanu Sutta. Yeah, and this is yet another sutta. Very interesting. This is not involving humans. Not humans are not the only people interested in happiness. So on one occasion, the Buddha or the Exalted One was dwelling at Anatta Pindaka's monastery in Chetas Grove near Savatthi. Now, when the night was far spent, a certain deity, a deva, means a non-human, whose surpassing splendor illuminated the entire Jeta Grove, came to the presence of the Exalted One, and drawing near, respectfully saluted him and stood at one side. Standing thus, he addressed the Exalted One in verse. Many deities, that means other devas, and men, that means human beings like us, yearning after good, have pondered on blessings. Pray, tell me the greatest blessing. So what are the things which are a blessing in our lives? And the sutta is called the Mangala Sutta. The word Mangala means blessing. In Chinese, we call it Ong Na. We want Ong in our lives, isn't it? So in this sutta, there are a list of 38 blessings. So please refer to this sutta, which I will not go through. I'm sure most of you are familiar. Now, yet another place. Here, for long-lasting happiness, the Buddha lectured the monks. In this case, very interestingly, the Buddha is advising the monks, not the lay people in this case. Now, because there are these 3 grounds for making merit. What 3? One should train in deeds of merit. Now, this one sentence are very important. Should train in deeds of merit. Deeds means action. So you must do something that is meritorious. But train, why? Some of us don't bother to do meritorious deeds. So you need to learn what is meritorious, need to do. When you do the first time, maybe we do it badly. Then we do again, we hopefully improve and improve. So training involves failure. There will be failures when you start doing something new. You try to do, and then again and again and again, you practice, you become expert lah. So that's why he said, one should train in deeds of merit that yield long-lasting happiness. And what is this? It is dana, giving. It is sila, virtue or morality. It is bhavana, mental development. So by cultivating these three things, these yielding happiness, the wise person is reborn in bliss, in an untroubled, happy world. And interestingly, the Buddha was not talking to lay people, Even monks need to train on practicing dana, sila, and bhavana. Okay. So what more? If the monks need to do it, definitely we will benefit lah, because it is for our long-lasting happiness. In the training, the Buddha advised many communities. We are back at Kalama Sutta again. The Kalama, remember? The Buddha said, don't believe this, don't believe that, and all that. So here, we need to grow strong roots. Now, for those who have heard of the 4 Brahma Viharas, comprising of compassion, karuna, loving kindness, metta, sympathetic joy, mudita, equanimity, upeka. The Kalama Sutta, the later portion, most people read only the front portion. They don't bother to read the whole sutta. But you want to have some beginner steps in how to practice all these 4 Brahma Viharas. The Buddha has this advice in the Kalama Sutta. Why? When you develop this compassion and loving kindness, you grow strong roots. Compassion is not just for other people, You need to have compassion, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, and equanimity for yourself also, as well as those around you. So now, back to this thing, living in harmony, in this case with society. We start with the individual. The individual unit needs to have compassion, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, so that they can make an impact, make a meaningful contribution to their community. And if more people have this kind of practice and qualities, the community influences the society, and finally the nation. It spreads. People see that, oh, you're very happy, you're very steadfast, you're a very nice person, so I also want to learn. So this thing spreads. So in that sense, society and finally the nation will grow strong roots, rooted in the 4 Brahma Viharas. Although as individuals, we are influenced by our friends. And in this particular quote from the Itivuttaka, this was said by the Blessed One with regard to external factors. And the Buddha said, I don't envision any other single factor like admirable friendship as doing so much for a monk in training who has not attained the heart's goal but remains intent on the surpassed safety from bondage. The key thing I want to underline here is admirable friendship. Not just friendship, admirable. It means you need to choose the correct friends. Some people you regard as friends, they could be actually enemies pretending to be your friends. So you need to choose warm-hearted friends. Hopefully they will become admirable friends. You have admirable friendship because they remind you, they suggest to you wise things to practice. And of course, hopefully you are also an admirable friend to the other person. So I help the person, that person help me. So in groups, we can progress faster. Alone, the going is tougher. Okay, so friends. Now, this is not the only place the Buddha talks about friends. Upada Sutta, the Buddha talks about friends. In fact, the friendship, admirable friendship, is the whole of the holy life. That means among monks and nuns, friendship is number one, very important. Monks and nuns must support each other so that they can progress well on the path. But to do it, lay people, Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha, in the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha gives you criteria of how to identify people who pretend to be your friends but actually are your enemies. And also, the Buddha also gave advice how to identify a warm-hearted friend, a good friend, finally to become an admirable friend. In the Sigalovada Sutta, that's for lay people. Now here, the Buddha would go around northern India and he will visit various groups of monks. Today we call them cell groups. So during the Buddha's time, there were cell groups. And this cell group comprised 3 monks only, very small cell group. And he came across them. So the Buddha addressed, Venerable Anuruddha. Anuruddha, are you all right? Do you have any fatigue owing to want of morsel food? Because in those days, when you go for Pintacara, you may not get enough food to makan. Okay, you're dependent on the lay people to offer. So some communities didn't offer so much. So the Buddha is concerned whether the Anuruddha himself was getting enough food or not. So Anuruddha replied, Venerable sir, we are all right. We have no fatigue owing to lack of morsel food. So then the Buddha moved on to the next concern. Anuruddha, are you united? As I mentioned, there were 3 of them, Anuruddha and 2 other monks staying together. Are you united and friendly without dispute like milk and water? And do you abide, seeing each other with friendly eyes? Now, as we all know, sometimes we ourselves, we dislike ourselves. Why? Because we have regrets, we have our thinking, jump here, jump there. What more if you have another person staying in the same house? We argue within ourselves. We might argue with the other person. It could be our spouse, it could be our brother, our sister. Even we argue with our parents. Don't talk about a community. More people, more arguments, because different people got their own ideas and so on. So the Buddha was concerned. Are you united and friendly? Can you mix up together with like milk and water? In a way, this sutta is called milk and water. And Anuruddha replied, Venerable sir, we are united like milk and water, friendly, without a dispute, and abide, seeing each other with friendly eyes. And the Buddha inquired further, Anuruddha, how do you abide, united like milk and water, friendly, without a dispute, seeing each other with friendly eyes? Venerable sir, this thought occurs to me, Anuruddha said. It is gain for me that I live with such co-associates in the holy life. So I abide with bodily actions of loving kindness towards these venerable ones. Openly, that means in front of them, and secretly behind people's back. Also, they have thoughts of loving kindness in terms of body. Okay. The openly and secretly is very important. Some people in front of you very nice. Belakang, they talk bad about you. So in front and behind also, this venerable says we have bodily actions of loving kindness. Not just bodily actions, verbal actions. What I say in front of you, I say to you, or I say behind your back. Also, I have actions of loving kindness. Mental actions, even in thoughts also. Whether in your presence or behind you, or when you're not around, I still have thoughts of loving kindness towards. So these 3 venerables are showing the example in which to be able for, in this case, 3 individuals to gel together, and by extension, the community, the society, and finally a nation. We need action, physical action, verbal action, and thoughts of loving kindness. Okay, but we have to start with ourselves, because we don't habitually have these kind of qualities. So we have to start at the unit. It means we ourselves must do something. So in the end, back to this slide again. We should follow a path of practice. And why do I show someone laying bricks? Why? It has to start from the unit. The unit is us. And we have to do it step by step. A path of practice is like building a wall, building a house. And if you build enough, step by step, bottom right, you can build a pyramid. And archaeologists have found out that they are not slaves. These are workforces, 20,000 workers, not including their families, the family also stay near there, working for 20 over years to build one pyramid. Okay, so it's a very, very big project. And ultimately, you have a splendor of a pyramid. In this case, a nation, a society, a well-grounded society. So it has to start from the unit, and we work on it step by step with a proper plan. So in the end, when we stay in the society, we are also in it. So in the end, we have to come with the idea. We are all in this together because every member of the society affects each other. We have a pleasant society or a very unpleasant society. So that was this morning sharing on living in harmony with society.